Hey everyone, we're here live with a little piano and hopefully maybe even a little discussion here. I don't know if we have enough traffic on these little live sessions that I'm doing here to make a discussion, but I just want to mention that's what I'm hoping for today here in this video. But just to have something on the program here, we're looking at a Haydn Sonata. All right, so this is the F major Haydn Sonata, Hob XVI 1623. Okay, I think probably a lot of people know this one. Maybe we could take apart this piece a little bit together. Okay, so this sonata belongs to a group of sonatas. There's 6 piano sonatas that Haydn wrote, kind of grouped back to back, and they're dedicated to the Count Esterhazy. So you'll see that sometimes in some of the scores, Esterhazy Gewidmet or something like that. Okay, so this was a Hungarian count that Haydn was in service to and dedicated 6 of his sonatas to. I think the number is correct. And they're all really awesome sonatas. Some of his, some of his best sonatas, let's say, are there. They're not the most, let's say, romantic sonatas that Haydn wrote, like the C major one and the E flat major sonata. These are, I think, also known as the London sonatas. I'm not sure, but many of them were written in London. Okay, so this is not the case. This is written in the place where Esterhazy was. I can't remember the place, the name of the place. It's outside of Vienna. You can actually visit there. There's a house that's where Haydn's buried. Actually, there's a church, a special church where Haydn is buried. They had to find different parts of his body. It's kind of a grotesque story, but I think Haydn was originally buried somewhere else, and they were going to move him to that church, and they dug him up and found that his head was missing. So someone stole Haydn's head. Anyway, I think they found the head. They got him all together. He's there in that place. What's the name of the town? I can't remember. It's about like 45 minutes from Vienna, but that's where he was anyway when he wrote this. So, hi to everyone watching. You can make this a discussion. Just fire away anything you want to talk about. We're just looking at a little Haydn here, Haydn Sonata. So one of the striking things about, I don't know if it's a striking thing about this sonata, but it becomes so obvious how classical music is going in an opposite direction of Baroque music. And Baroque music is always homogeneous. Like whatever's going on, whatever rhythmic figuration we have, it often remains the same for a very long time. The prelude and fugues are good examples. From the very first bar, that figuration that we have, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going on. Same thing for pretty much every single prelude in the book. So we have and that just remains unrelenting. Maybe another very well-known one here is. So same thing. We have that unrelenting rhythm from beginning to end. Not just unrelenting, but it's the same. It's like sixteenths going from beginning to end. Now listen to this. We had like 4 different kind of rhythms in there. We started out with tam ba-dum, bam ba-dum, bam ba-dum. And then he goes ti-dum, da-ga-da-ga-dum, pa-pa-pa-pi, and then a triplet. With a trill and a little cadential ending with a perfect cadence, authentic perfect cadence. So that's a way that classical music is, it's not just different from Baroque music, obviously it's different, but it's like what the composers are trying to do is totally different. They're trying to make contrasts. So we start out with this kind of thing, and it's like, all right, now let's do something different. And then add a triplet in there to keep this thing interesting. Not at all what Baroque composers were preoccupied with, making these kind of contrasts. So there's a little interesting thing to mention. I've been a little sick lately, so sorry for the coughs. Okay, so another interesting thing about this is that every period goes against what the ones before were doing. So when you go forward 2 periods, let's say from Baroque to Classical to Romantic, they start doing again what the Baroque composers were doing. So think of the Chopin etudes, or just so much music, so much of the Romantic music. It's almost more in line with the way the Baroque music was in terms of contrast. We have again a figuration. That stays the same for the entire etude. Okay. Maybe that one even has more contrasting things in it. Okay, so the Romantic music in a way comes back to a bit like what the Baroque composers were doing with this stuff. And the classical music's totally apart. Hi, Tunkay Denis. Watching from Istanbul. Great, awesome. That's cool. We have different time zones here. It's always really exciting. So, okay, anyone has any questions? Fire away. We can make this a discussion. I just wanted to let you know that you're welcome to write in the chat. Okay. All right. Let's look at this a little bit, as we usually do. We could do that. You know, we have a 1, 5, 1. We do a little more on the 5. 1, 5, 1, T. I think that one's important. Look, we have this on we can have this on the screen here. So you see that T. It's hard to find a good edition for this online. I have a staccato on this note in another edition, but it's not really the Bible either. So, but I would almost like accentuate that note. Again, these little slur lines. This is not a very good edition, eh? This is a terrible edition. Maybe I should have chosen another one. But okay, all right. What to do when you have a garbage edition? Well, first of all, find a better one. But the point is to kind of understand that there's a lot of things that you see on this paper that are not really there, or not, like the composer didn't write them at least, and we don't really want there. All of these slur marks, Haydn didn't write. Same with these ones. Same with this one. They're kind of like suggestions. This one is there, okay? Pretty sure. This as well is not there. Sometimes this doesn't change anything. Sometimes it makes a huge difference, okay? So it's good to just be aware of that. So when you get these editions full of slurs, you might have one that's not very good. So, okay, I start out by saying that I really can't stand this one. I'm gonna see if I can just, look, here's IMSLP. Okay, this is this edition. So maybe there's better than that. All right, this is how we're doing it today, folks. It's super relaxed style. We're changing the edition just like that. Okay, so this one had like over 3 stars on IMSLP, but the ratings are pretty much nothing. You can kind of see, you know, if you look at the little previews here. See, that one has those slurs as well. They're not in any of the good editions. That one also has them. Oh, you see that? This one does not have all those slurs which Haydn didn't write. And that little staccato I thought was there is there. This looks a lot like the Dover edition, to be honest. What is this? Breitkopf. I often find the Breitkopf ones the best. So why have like extra markings that the composer didn't write? That's just something, for me, it's not really welcome, you know? Like, even if occasionally the ideas are good, it's really annoying to be distracted by that. I'm always trying to figure out what the composer was trying to say or write, or how this music should be played, let's say. And I get it that sometimes we desperately need to leave that box, that kind of constricting box where we're trying to make dead composers happy. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe it's my training, but if I'm playing Haydn, I just can't help it. So here's a better edition, okay? Isn't that nicer? We don't have any of those really annoying slurs. Okay, Mozart F major sonata. There's another F major sonata. We can definitely look a little bit at that. Is that the that is such a nice one. I don't know if that's number 12, K332, I think so. Hi Moy, hi CM, and hi Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, and Chopin lineage composer who just did his 88th etude. Is that a joke? Moy says, I'm lucky today to find your live stream. Thanks for generosity. And well, thank you for joining us. You guys can barely hear me? That sucks. I have audio problems all the time. Is this better if I do this? It's probably gonna like crack, especially if I turn this way, but okay. Oh yeah, that's the one, Tunke, the F major one. Well, we can look a bit at that. Can pull that out here. It's another F major. Let's just do a phrase or two in this sonata here. Hey Graham, nice you could make it. So we have that phrase. Okay, I did mention this here. Sounds particularly great if you kind of accentuate that little thing there. The 1 and a 5 and a 1. I like this kind of 1-5-1 thing where we play 5 a bit more, okay? These are the harmonic functions. So this is home, this has more tension, and this comes back home and gets interrupted by that accent. I'm very rusty today, guys. This is so fun, this. I think we want to make a swell within the 30-second notes, you know? Otherwise, we go to the long note, which sounds pretty good too. But it's kind of predictable. You see? I'm going to the long note. But we could go kind of swell within the movement of the 30 seconds. Isn't that more interesting? I don't know if that made sense. Well, kind of what we're doing here is sort of making a swell in the middle of this thing here. You know, and then we connect this somehow to our body, you know, and how we're doing this with the arm. It naturally makes that kind of swell. You don't have to calculate it like that. If you use at least your arm to do this. So when we get here, we gotta shape a little bit this thing as well. Then we get these. We're gonna switch to this. Now always these notes leading to the long one, and this one resolves here. Okay, so we have that. This is the Haydn F major sonata, okay, number 23, or Hob XVI 23, okay, the first movement. We're looking a little bit at this and maybe a few other things here, maybe a bit of the Mozart F major sonata number 12 at a special request here. I think we'll just do a page of this thing here. Everyone wants to do this. An accent on the staccato. Whereas the staccato is short, but it's the ending of the phrase, and it's shouldn't have an accent. It sounds less good with an accent. You see? It's like we get that little, we understand the fragment if you don't put that accent. Same thing here. Okay, so that's these things here. This is how Anton Querti used to do this. Put a 0 over the note that you shouldn't have an accent. All right. Yum pum 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 pa da da dum. Ti 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 da da ti da dum. You see that? Ya da 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 dum. Make sure you have the F sharp here. Some people are missing it. Okay. Ya da da. Yep. If I could only give one tip to a student, what would it be? Oh boy. I try to think of something on the fly, you know, and then I'll probably think of it later today and have a totally different answer. If I could only give one tip, you know, like I kind of think about like who the student is, because it's so, the levels are so vast. The abilities that different people have are so different. Some people are, you know, great with rhythm. Some people are not so good with rhythm. Some people are prodigies. Some people need to work harder. Some people, a lot of people, work maybe a little too hard, you know, or not well enough. So it's kind of stuff like that. I don't know if there's like a general tip that's good for everyone. Kind of. One thing's for sure, if you can be efficient in the way that you practice, that's something we all benefit from, you know. I was just talking with a colleague, a former colleague of mine, another pianist, of moments where we or other colleagues of ours got destroyed in a studio class by, some teacher. In my case, sometimes it was my teacher. One time it was John Perry. It's usually kind of humiliating, and then somehow it's like something clicked and you actually change the way that you play. But it's a weird, almost like toxic situation where as musicians and we're kind of like, we have this occupational hazard of trying to do everything so well all the time, like we feel like that's like people are going to love us if we can play the piano properly, and if we can't, then we're going to be ridiculed or humiliated or not deserving of love or something like that. It's kind of messed up, but believe it or not, that's a lot of musicians is kind of somewhere, at least unconsciously, I think that's going on. So in one case, it was a teacher that was kind of getting very frustrated at me. Once it was because of pedal. I think I was playing Rock 2 in a studio class, and he it was a little insulting. He told me I pedaled like a deaf man. And me, I was kind of thinking I was going to show off to my colleagues that were watching me, and it was kind of humiliating. So, but my pedaling really improved after that. I was like really paying more attention to it, even if that was not a happy lesson. I think the lesson I really remember, as it was kind of like one of those life-changing lessons, was I was playing the Chopin Fourth Scherzo, preparing for a competition, and there was a passage I was just not really bothering to get right, like really right, just kind of playing through it with a bunch of mistakes all the time. And he got very frustrated, but I remember him saying something to the tune of, at some point you have to practice the passage, and like if there's a mistake in it, it's zero, like you still don't have it, and you have to like fix the thing with a couple of colorful explicatives there, so so yeah, I remember feeling awful in that piano lesson, but it changed the way I practiced, because there were a lot of passages that I just never cared to really take the time to fix them. So there's no one general piece of advice that I can think of that's good for everyone, because everyone needs very different advice. But one thing I've noticed a lot with adult learners is they tend to always go for things that are way too challenging, and you're kind of wasting your time. You're spending so much time reading notes and figuring out how to play them. You're never doing music, and you're never getting to the place where you could just kind of play and forget a little about what you're doing. So there's very little flow or creativity in that. So, but again, that's for a specific kind of audience, that advice would be. So it depends on the student there. How to practice Chopin Scherzo number 3? Yeah, that's a very general question. Scherzo number 3. Aha, the one with the octaves. Oh yeah. Forget about that piece. Confuse it with the ballade. Scherzo number 3. You have a lot of this rotation stuff in there. Okay, but let's look a little bit at that Mozart F major sonata, since I don't know if our friend from Istanbul is still there, but we can pull that up a little bit at the same time. Deniz, if you're still there, just give a little shout and we can look a bit at that sonata. Was there a specific thing? You said the second movement? It's the second movement you're looking at. Aha, that thing there. We can look at that a little bit. How would you advise me to play most of my keys, scales, and chords? But I don't know what to do to enjoy piano. I can't read music. How would you advise me? I can play most of my keys, scales, chords, but I don't know how to enjoy piano. I can't read music. Ah, I see. Well, maybe find a piece that you love and you want to play and look at that. Again, keep it simple. Don't. I think most of the time people choose things that are way too hard for them and they get kind of stuck and discouraged. So find something that you actually like. It could be a pop song, and if you know you don't have to know how to read music to have fun at the piano. There's tons of pianists. I would argue that pop and jazz pianists, at least it looks like they're having more fun than us classical musicians, and half of them can't read music. So if you know your chords, you're on the right track. I would just look at what your actual interests are. What is it you want to do with the piano? What is it you want to play? So Dennis is still here. Was it the second movement, Dennis, you wanted us to look at? I don't know if that's this one. What a beautiful little phrase, eh? And then he goes to minor. Such beautiful music. Yeah, it seems that if we swell to the middle of the bar, that's the right place. So ta ta da da da. And then same thing. Ta da da da. So it would sound like this. So we kind of aim for the E natural, plus it's a more expressive note. And then resolve. Same thing, the second bar. Somewhere towards the middle of the bar, with relaxing it on the ends. A natural, sorry. Here, listen to your Alberti bass in such a way that we hear La, Do, Si, Re, Fa, Si, Fa. It's tempting to kind of pedal through the bass. And that is our actual bass line. But to make it a little more lean and, lean in texture with the pedal. Maybe not the F, but these ones, pedal twice, pedal, pedal, pedal. What about the beginning? There's like a couple of spots where that makes sense to do, and I think that the fourth bar is one of those. Okay, now. Again, we're going to the climbing in intention towards the third beat. And 2, and 3, 4. This time with a D flat here. How does this go? So I like to do these things on the beat. This is before the beat. On the beat sounds more correct to me. And he goes back to major there. Make sure also that these little appoggiaturas are resolved. So 2, T, da, 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 D, more of the G, less of the F. And then we have syncopations. And we come back to F major there. Yes, it's really beautiful. How to play octaves, relaxing. I am Georgian. Do you know Georgia? I know Georgia a tiny bit. I've never been to Georgia. I know you have very good food. I would love to go there. How to play octaves. Okay, with relaxation, how to play octaves. Great question. All right, how do we play octaves feeling somewhat relaxed? We can take scales. Let's take a scale. C major is never really the best because we don't have any black keys. Black keys would help us. So let's take E major. What you want to do is feel that you can rest in the keys. What does that mean? It means that when the note is down and you're there holding the note, that you're not holding your hands, you know, or holding your arms. So this is kind of relaxed. I think you could probably find a couple of videos on this channel about playing octaves. Alright, so what happens is we get kind of tight, especially in this part of the hand when playing octaves. And then we kind of go like on the piano instead of ba 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 ba. That's kind of. This is with a relaxation. And without the relaxation is more like that, okay? It's okay for now, but as we start to get really challenging things, it's not going to work anymore if we don't have that relaxation. So my favorite analogy, I think, that anyone's ever given me at the piano is this kind of thing. Playing octaves with relaxation is kind of like mopping the floor with a wet mop. You have a heavy wet mop. You know how that feels? You're used to lifting the mop when it's dry. It's very easy to move around, and then it's wet and it's like. So it's kind of like that, as if someone's taking your arm and doing this. Relax, relax, rest, rest. So it's like in the moment where we're doing scales, okay? That's why it's kind of easy, even if we're tight. But if we do things like, that's harder now, right? That's a good idea here. How can we work on that? I still have a few mistakes in the right hand. There we go. Okay, now if I tighten up, that kind of happens like that. We hear like some mistakes. The idea of this would be to play, rest completely, and then jump to this octave here and rest. And then jump to the next one and rest. So it looks a little bit like that. In the moment of the attack, we do apply the speed. We're not just like this. You see? And then jump to the next, jump to the next. So in the moment that you jump, the relaxation is still there. Maybe that's a key part of this. This is a good passage of this is in the Liszt Sonata, right? How are we going to practice this stuff here? I'd have to practice that. Okay, but that's how I would practice this, is play the octave and rest, play and rest, play and rest, play and rest. So that eventually this feels kind of like the heavy mop analogy that we had before. Yes, we have a lot of those. Yeah, we have a lot of those octaves in there. Another good example is the Chopin octaves, Etude. the Chopin etude, everything's like really close. We're not jumping, doing arpeggios like in the Liszt Sonata, for example, or in that passage. So in this case, it's about kind of crawling on the piano with the octaves. Use the fourth and fifth fingers. You know, look at this. We're just going. We're not going. That would be so hard, or you would probably have tendonitis by the time you get to the end. And if you don't, I'm kind of jealous, to be honest. So. Okay, just putting it up so you can see what it looks like there. But that's the idea with those octaves. Yeah, it's important to be relaxed in your octaves, right? Otherwise, we're going to have a hard time. What's the iconic octave passage, you know, for pianists? You know, I'm curious. I would throw the question out. Does anybody have any suggestions? What should be like, you know, the top 5 kind of octave runs in piano literature? I have one idea. I'm hoping someone will call that one. It's a kind of obvious one. It's the composer starts with T. I'm trying this piece in waltz rhythm, and it sounds really great. Okay, the Mozart. In waltz rhythm? You mean? I don't know. Gaming Gamer 521. I've watched some of your older videos, like for the Liszt Sonata and TE number 2. What's TE number 2? I love guessing these things. TE. Your videos have helped me a lot. Okay. I'm happy they help. That's what I'm here for. Graham says, Ravel Piano Concerto in G, third movement. I've been practicing the opening passage in 16ths solidly. Okay. I don't have the score of that one here, Graham. I could download it. I don't think I have it right here. But I haven't played or taught that one. It's a good piece, though. I should teach it. Liszt Sonata ending is iconic. You betcha it is. Transcendental Etude, number 2. Okay, I see. Yeah. Yeah, the ending of that sonata. There's another original ending of the Liszt Sonata. For those of you who are nerds and like to know this stuff, you can even see like manuscript copies on the internet where he just like scribbled out the end totally. It was a kind of more of a fireworksy ending. Oh, that octave passage actually at the end of the sonata, that's got to be the worst. That's worse than this. So hard to practice things when, you know, you feel like someone's watching you. Anyway, it's the same thing. people always complain that it's kind of hard to play for their piano lesson. It's like, you know, they do it so well at home, and they think it's different for us, but it's the same thing, you know. So just having someone being in this mode where you feel like you're performing for someone, it just changes your kind of the way you're playing, and not always in a good way. You just kind of lose your center. We're just so preoccupied with like getting it right all the time, and what other people think of what we're doing. Some chords in the left hand we're having. There's a lot of jumps in here and turns. That's what makes this a difficult octave passage. There we go. So that's how I would, you know, practice this. Again, is the heavy mop analogy. This is one of those places where we get tight in the arm, in this part of the hand, to do that, and that's what happens. Another thing that's very useful is observe your wrist. If the wrist is always in the same place, chances are your wrist or this part of the hand is locked. Somewhere you're locked. Okay, we don't want to be like that. But if this is free, then you know that you have at least some degree of relaxation in there. And you can kind of use the white and black keys to help that movement. That's why when we have like C major or G major, feels almost harder than this B major scale. Because we have white keys and black keys, and it just makes it a bit more obvious what we can do with the wrist to help the arms stay relaxed. You know, that should probably be more rhythmic, actually. Yum pa ta 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 dum pa yum da 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 da. I would practice my own thing there to get a bit more definition in there. All right. Virgin says, for the past year or so, I realized my hands freeze before certain chords or notes. It's like a mental block. I think I know what you're talking about. I can't physically push down the keys. But it's a mental block. I really feel it's like you don't know what chord you're playing, and you're like, and you stop. I don't know if that's. I also have a neurological stutter, and I wonder if the same part that causes that is giving me this problem. Interesting. I've been learning on and off for the past 4 years, since 21 years old. I feel like my sense of musicality has developed, but my techniques remained on the same basic level. What are you playing, Virgin? On and off since 4 years? I would imagine your technique has improved up to a certain point. Yeah, it's like sometimes doubting ourselves or the mental block, you're like not sure, is that the right chord? I'm not sure exactly if there's a quick fix for that or for anything. Even if I know exactly what I'm playing, the block is there. It's very concerning. Interesting. I'm curious what that looks like. And I would be inclined to suggest, like, to take something pretty simple that you could learn in a very short time, like a month, and just memorize it and play it, and just see how that, it should be something that's like supposed to be easy, but that you can play from beginning to end, let's say, and just see how your mental block kind of affects you there. Because if you're always learning pieces that are harder and harder, it's hard to know, is it just because you're not ready for that level, or is it something else that's stopping you? So, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about that. But we can look at that together if that's something you want to do. All right. So there we have it, guys. Any other questions, fire away. If not, we're going to end this thing soon. We can talk a little bit more about the Haydn Sonata here. We never finished the exposition. We can totally look at that a little bit. Why not? We have, oh, that's the Mozart. Let me switch it back to Haydn. Haydn F major, there we go. Got it just for, oh, that's the bad one. Ah, I changed it and I didn't put the other one in the right place. So it's going to be hard to find, because usually what I do is I rename them. So now it's called IMSLP something, you know, and I don't know how many things are called IMSLP here. Oh, I can go in like recent. There it is. I'm just not so good with Fourscore. But here we have it. Okay, so we did the first part here. Let's maybe just finish these 2 pages here. That's always a place where people make rhythmic mistakes. I mean, if you could just count 1, 2, then you got it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay. You see, these are the kind of shapes we can make in classical music that sound very good. Try to aim for not the top of a scale or the bottom of a scale, but after the curve. Showing like right after the curve. So it gives a feeling of movement. It gives a feeling of gravity, of physics. For example, okay, it's allegro moderato. Probably shouldn't do it at that speed, but 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And of course we have the same thing twice, so we could also do it differently. You know, often what people would do is an echo. You know, and when I went to University of Montreal, all of my teachers were kind of like agreed on this thing that like we don't do the echo. It's like the last resort. It's better than nothing, but there's always something better than doing loud soft. You know, but the loud soft. So you know, there's different ways we could shape it, I guess. So we could play around with that. One of my flaws is always playing things a bit too fast and practicing them too fast. So, you know, I think of this sonata, it probably shouldn't even be that fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it's kind of like the perfect tempo. We find the perfect tempo, but sometimes we're able to go faster and we like to push it. But the perfect tempo is rarely as fast as you think it should be or as fast as you're able to play it, I would say, you know. Like that was just the sweet spot there. And a little bit faster than that, we kind of lose something in the music when it goes from being to it's like it becomes a completely different kind of piece. Okay, let's bring this little guy back up here. Okay. We have a little surprise cadence. Here you can aim for the high notes. And here's another way we can group this. Another thing we can think about here is group it like this. You see, so it finishes with beep up up. So the little E flat, the last E flat, is the ending of the shape. We do have an F sharp there. And then from here, do a nice slur in the left hand. Okay, so it's kind of like we have E, short, short, E, always short in the left hand, until here. And then we get to that. All right, so. Okay, I don't know that I can't think of anything specific to say about this passage. We kind of got those right and left hand there in parallel. 4-3-2-1, 4-3-2-1, 4-3-2-1. Those fingerings work often very well here. Okay, here's a cool thing we can do with this sonata, and a lot of classical sonatas, they have these endings that are, in a classical sonata, usually the ending of the exposition and the end of the sonata of the first movement are the same, right? We have, and the ending in F major, we have this. Well, what we can do is like a crescendo here. We're going to finish loud, let's say. Oh, what an ugly F. Let's do it again here. Like this, and kind of like that. Okay? Something like that. But at the beginning here, we do the opposite. Do the exact opposite. And that often is a great strategy. That's a P. I still hate writing with a pen. With on a tablet, I mean. So now we'd have that's a nice way of varying it up a little bit. And Moy says, I've been learning RCM for decades. I can read notes, but when it comes to modern music, it's not the same. My last teacher said that learning RCM made me stupid. Well, RCM is not so bad. I like to think about these programs like RCM or ABRSM or whatever they are. They're kind of like anthology books with pieces around a similar level. But don't limit yourself to a method in that it's like, this is my book. I'm just going to go through these books, the RCM books, or the ABRSM books, or the whatever books are in your country or area. It's a very kind of narrow approach. Open up your approach and then use RCM as kind of some of the curriculum that you go through. You know, RCM has quite a bit of modern music in their books. So is that the RCM Performance series? Like, oh, I have one that's over there. Because they have a lot of modern stuff in there. Usually reading, it sounds like your sight reading has improved a lot going through those books and learning as many pieces as possible. But then when you get to modern stuff, it's like, ooh, it's so different. It's so different to read Debussy or Ravel or Scriabin or Rachmaninoff or, you know, anything that has like a wider harmonic language, or even just like atonal music can be really confusing, because everything you're used to using as a guide to reading music is just not there anymore. It's like, what's the chord? It's always something different than you've ever done. So I wouldn't say using RCM has made you stupid. That's kind of I would just break out of only looking at one method in your learning process. Use our RCM as a kind of sidekick, you know, but open up your world, so to speak. Take a look at what other method books are asking you to do and kind of compare it with RCM, and you'll be like, oh, that's totally different. That's not the same. So, what would you say about Nimrod Elgar? This is one of the most sublime pieces of music ever written, without a doubt. It's called Nimrod by Elgar. I don't know it. Do we have it on Spotify? Nimrod. What is Nimrod? What does that mean? Nimrod Elgar. Uh-huh. Well, I will check it out, my friend. Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, Carl Davis. I don't think I can play this on here, but I'll have a look at that piece. Okay, guys, I think that's the end of this little stream. This has been really fun. Thank you for tuning in and turning this into a little discussion. I like that. Let's do a master class sometime. I know that's on me. It's not on you guys, but I'll just tell you what I'm thinking of is one on a Sunday at the end of this month and another one in October at some time. Probably like around 2 p.m. Eastern time, or maybe 1 p.m. Eastern time. I miss doing that. That's been really fun. Just hearing, you know what my ideal setup here would be is like a live stream like this, where people kind of call in, but if they could call in, like video call in with their pianos, you know, and like play a little passage. That would be so cool. You know, that's kind of something I thought about today. All right, thank you everybody. Have a great day. Happy practicing. You know, if you want to, if any of you are watching this stream retroactively and had some questions you would have asked, just write them in the comments, and maybe next time I do a stream like this, I'll just start out by answering your questions, or some questions that are in the comments. I was kind of looking at that before, and it was hard to find anything. I'm not sure. You know, people ask such general questions like, is it hard to play Nomen Reigen? All right. Hi, Renato Farabeff from Mexico. All right, we had Mexico, Istanbul, USA, Canada, I'm sure, probably. Bye, everyone. Peace, over and out. Happy practicing.